Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with the Allied Brawler from TOOR Knives. Now this is a knife that I took a preliminary look at on my Outer Limitless channel, but here today on Outer Limitless Blades, we are going to get into the field use. This is a tactically inspired knife, really beautifully made, USA made, USA designed, a veteran-owned and operated company, and just exquisite design. Now, there are a few things that I do have to say. If I were to design this personally, I probably would have changed, but overall, a very useful, very functional, and in a way, kind of utility-driven design. I like this quite a bit. It performs extremely well, and I think you'll see after the field use that I was very happy with the overall performance of the TOOR knives. So with that, let's get into the field use. And if you like what you see here today, do me a favor, look in the description box below where you can find all of the relevant links for where you can find your own TOOR Knives, Allied Brawler, and other awesome, fantastic blades. So again, take a look in the description box below. Now granted, this knife is tactically inspired, however, I will always use my knives for general camp tasks and preparing for a fire. So good ability to test here, test the overall comfort of the handle doing harder tasks, test the geometry, and the grind angle on that secondary bevel. Certainly not going to be the hardest test for this, but just getting into some carving with a nice soft piece of pine here. Gives me a good understanding of that edge angle. The grind geometry is actually very nice. Striking a wonderful balance between what feels to be a robust edge, yet slicey at the same time. Not quite as slicey as other knives in this size class, but a good thick stock, and generally speaking, with that high saber grind, by the time you get down to that secondary grind, it's going to be reasonable for slicing. Nice and controlled. Thumb on that jimping. Jimping's a little bit sharp, and the handle definitely a little bit sharp, but it's not bothering me at all. Doing a nice job with the carving here. Trying to get fairly thin and just tasty little curls here, trying not to dig too deep. And clearly you can see more than capable of doing this work. Now this stuff is super flammable, nice and thin, will catch a spark very easy. Leveraging the back of the spine just for a minute here. I'm gonna try a little bit of scraping. It's not really gonna do it. This isn't really squared off. And then especially with the coating, you kind of gotta find an edge to work with here. And it's pretty much just rounding out the wood. It really doesn't want to do too much in the way of scraping tasks. But you can see coating actually holding up pretty well. And it's not that the wood's all that tough, but it does give you a little bit of an understanding of what you might be able to do and some of the limitations with a knife like this. Getting a little more aggressive here. Just gonna start to kind of dig deep. Just really rack on that edge. Dig down, slice, twist, bite. Try to sharpen this out as quick as possible. Right down through a heavy knot. No problem. And I mean, this is making super quick work of this. Just hucking those little curls right at the lens. When I have good edge geometry, I can find that edge and I can direct the curls pretty much right at the camera. It's giving me the control I'm looking for. But yeah, you can hear that bite. It's all caught on the lens there. But yeah, lightening up a bit here. Thumb over the top. Very simple. Yeah, really nice. Excellent carving capability, and even with a fairly small handle, but it does fill out my hands well. Nice control over the top for some of the lighter maneuvers. That's sweet. And getting back into some of that stabbing and splitting. Split down through the wood, pop and twist. It's going to be a little bit different when you process wood out in the wilderness. It's not going to be quite as dry. It won't have quite the same grain structure, and of course it won't all be squared off, but there are still some similarities here. Split a bigger piece. Let's go part way down. Push, pop, twist. That unsharpened swedge definitely helping with the splitting. I'll basically drive the knife down and through and then push, and I'm pushing up against the unsharpened swedge. It's doing a nice job to split this wood. One last time. push right there. Split that down. The Brauler doing a nice job. Tip penetration here, fairly deep. Stabbing down. Now my hands definitely do not feel like they're going to slip, but you can see that checkered pattern clearly on my fingers. So this is going to beat up your hands, but it's going to give you a secure grip for sure. A little bit of tip testing here. Testing that heat treat, making sure the knife is going to survive the hard use. Tactically inspired knives have to be able to do some prying. This should not be a hard test for a knife like this. Twist. Digging that out. No worries, no problem at all. Cutting some hose. This can be hit or miss. But yeah, no problem there. Once you start the little slice, a little bit of a rock, that will go right through. Nice and simple. Nothing to it. Fisherman's line. This is for lobster traps. Ooh, right through. Super smooth. Oh, don't even have to try. That's crazy good. Literally, when I just take the knife, slide it into place, a little bit of a pull, right through. Buttery smooth. Simple. Extremely effective. The only thing to watch out for is the choil, because obviously you can get the knife caught up in there. So that's just something to be mindful of. But again, good bite, very effective. And so, all right, guys, there you have it. A look at the Allied Brawler from TOOR Knives. No doubt that this is a beautiful design, very nicely made. The USA made factor just puts it up there, in my opinion. Now, of course, as we went through this, you saw that, in my opinion, the handle is square. It really, truly is. However, given the fact that this is really kind of a tactically inspired knife, I do understand that a lot of times more tactical knives are going to be a little more slab-sided, so less in the way of a palm swell, and a lot of touch points that are very positive for the retention in the hand and that purchase. So when you grab onto the knife, those sharp edges and sharp angles really do bite into the hand as you go to extract the knife from the sheath. And granted, these are pyramids that are, the points are knocked down, but this aggressive pyramid design in the machining and in the handle scales really gives this a ton of positive grip. Now, in my opinion, I will soften all of these edges because I am more of the bushcrafty guy. I like more of the woods craft. I like more of the fire prep. And so having the softened corners really will make a big difference for me. And in fact, I'm contemplating just doing a little kind of follow-up video of me going through that process and rounding all of this out and softening up those touch points for the long-term and prolonged use, and especially if you're bringing this knife out into the wilderness, out into the mountains. The last thing I ever want to do is damage my hands, and I do think that after enough use, you would definitely get yourself some hot spots. But overall, there is no denying the overall quality, the awesome blade steel, and the fact that this is nice and sharp even after all of that use. And I would say this has a slightly broader edge than some other knives in this particular size class. However, definitely slicey. Slicey enough. But more than anything, that edge is nice and refined. Coming in CPM crew wear with a Rockwell hardness of 60 to 62 on the Rockwell scale. So again, a very refined edge, nice and sharp, and even after all of that use, no problem. Very sharp, even still capable of easily slicing paper and shaving sharp. Not quite, but a little bit. And definitely a nice combination between a slicey edge and one that's going to have excellent durability. Now couple all of that with a nice quality sheath. The ability to add a variety of clips is awesome. I am definitely going to add an ulti-clip, front pocket ride, sand all these edges, and make it a little bit comfortable. And the one thing that I think will be interesting, on the inside, there is leather strips that protect the blade from rubbing against the kydex, keeps it quiet, and makes this more of a friction fit than sort of more of that clicky and snappy kydex that a lot of people like. I personally really like a friction fit, so it'll be interesting to see how this holds up over time, and especially once I start to get gunk, grime, sand, things built up on the strips, and hopefully those leather strips don't loosen up and press down into the void space of the sheath itself. If that happens, this will be very difficult to get the knife in and out, mostly in. I don't see it being a problem just yet, but of course, only time will tell. And so again, thank you guys for following along on Outer Limitless blades. If you want to go back to my Outer Limitless channel, see my preliminary look at this knife as well as other TOOR models, there will be more to come with this particular knife. So to the people at TOOR, thank you so much for providing this for review. Look in the description box below where you can find all of the relevant links for where you can find your own TOOR Allied Brawler and all their other awesome blades. And take a look at my Outer Limitless family of channels. At this point, Outer Limitless Blades is only one of a few of my channels, so if you're looking for more content on different genres, look in the description box below for all of the relevant links. So alright guys, thanks for stopping by. Hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.